Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse. As you can clearly tell, I'm on vacation. But it's Billboard BREAKDOwn.
I don't remember.
The tricky thing about Billboard BREAKDOwn post-album bomb week, especially when I'm on vacation and the episode's already late because I have limited time and I'm really hoping I can pull this together fast, is that you're never quite sure how the Hot 100 is going to fall out, be it a gradual shift of the tide or something more scattered and messy. Rarely does it present a near complete reset to normal, but that's kind of what I expected here in the aftermath of Playboi Carti. I don't want to say the album came and went, but given the breadth of the album bomb, I'm a little bit surprised it didn't have more staying power, albeit not that surprised if I'm being honest. Anyway, our top 10, where it seems like Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA has a solid grip on the number 1, returning to being the top spot on streaming and now with a real radio surge behind it. I'm not seeing the obvious competition that could unseat it, certainly not Die With A Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars at number 2, which is now in radio freefall despite holding the top spot and not particularly close to challenging on the streaming margins. And right behind it, in recovery, is a bar song Tipsy by Shaboozey at number 3. Less because of the song's strength and more due to Playboi Carti's losses. But the radio fall-off has been gradual and around the streaming mostly being stable. But then we got our first new entry in the top 10, Just In Case by Morgan Wallen at number 4. And I guess I just need to accept that Morgan Wallen's big enough that it can seriously hammer the charts with every single new single, especially as the streaming and the sales are both there in spades. Even if the radio is a little slow to catch up this time, we'll get to why a little later on. Then making some considerable gains, we got Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan at number 5. I chalk this up to a radio push alongside stable enough streaming, but I'm not sure it can really surpass any margin to get that higher, although right alongside it is, oh god, how is this not gone already? Lose Control by Teddy Swims back in the top 10 yet again at number 6, because the radio for this will not die and the streaming is still mostly robust somehow. What might be the more credible challenger for the top is Nokia by Drake at number 7, although I'm not really sure it can make a run even with the video. The radio's been sluggish, and while the streaming's there, it's going to be a real sustainability challenge to get much higher. Granted, also back in the top 10 is Beautiful Things by Benson Boone at number 8, another track with frankly obnoxious streaming and radio stability that's also not going away, and it should, and its return pushed back Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar down to number 9, although the streaming is keeping it stable despite the radio dumping it en masse. Finally, back in the top 10 we got Apartment by Rose and Bruno Mars. And this one slightly confuses me. I think there may have been some sort of radio rebalance because I'm not seeing that much beyond the radio that would suggest a serious recovery. I guess that would make sense for the rest of the top 10, and it does have some degree of inertia there. Probable enough, I think. Now for our losers and dropouts. In the latter group, it's pretty much all just Playboi Carti, and he accounts for the majority of our losers too. Outside of Sleep Token's Emergence sliding down to 84, and The Giver by Chappell Roan hitting 29, also off the debut. From Playboi Carti, we got Rather Lie with The Weeknd at 25, Evil Jordan at 27, Good Credit with Kendrick Lamar at 60, Backdoor, also with Kendrick Lamar and Jhené Aiko at 76, Crush and Philly with Travis Scott at 77 and 94 respectively, Like Wheezy at 87, Toxic with Skepta at 91, and Fine Shit at 98. Now, this would normally be kind of messy with our returns and gains, except here's the thing. Nearly every single loss last week saw gains this week. It's hard for me to see the point running through over a third of the chart here when I'm on vacation. The only cuts that saw a gain while not previously losing momentum were I'm the Problem by Morgan Wallen at 11, likely due to his songs this week, we will have to get to them. And from Alex Warren, Ordinary at 20, I can smell an adult alternative hit from here, and Burning Down at 83. We actually had considerably more returns that clawed their way back after last week. So let's start with those with the longest prior run, those being 4x4 by You by Lainey Wilson at 89, Que Pasaria by Raul Alejandro and Bad Bunny at 99, and Voy a Levarte pa Puerto Rico at 100. Also from Bad Bunny, we got EO at 67. Then given some album impact, Call Me When You Break Up by Selena Gomez, Benny Blanco, and Gracie Abrams is back at 46, Ta Cuele Ver by Aleman and Netten Vega hit 69. Texas by Blake Shelton's back at 86. Are You Even Real by Giveon and Teddy Swims is back again at 88. Little Things by LMA recovered to 90. Holy Smokes by Bailey Zimmerman is back at 93. Headlock by Imogen Heap returned to 95. And Push to Start by Tyla hit 96. But now on for our new arrivals, and speaking of Selena Gomez, number 97, Sunset Boulevard by Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco.
Sunset Boulevard, making you famous, everyone's watching.
I mentioned this song is probably the best of the album in my review, but is it really saying much when the most memorable part of the song is the exuberant pre-chorus masquerading as a mediocre dick joke, or the entire song is an extended fantasy of Benny Blanco being crazy and running around naked on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood? I didn't know Selena Gomez had an exhibitionist streak, even though I think her attempts at being naughty prompt more than just a couple eye rolls. But it's still a pretty good pop song on raw construction. The soft-focused new disco with the scratchy groove and the gauzy synths has just enough polish to flatter Selena's touched-up vocals while still feeling a bit scrappy. Probably the best example of the fusion of their styles working, so yeah, you know what? Pretty damn good. I'll take it. Number 92, Friends Like That by John Morgan featuring Jason Aldean.
Jack on my right, blowing that smoke on a Friday night. Wheeling turned up on the JBL. Girl, you probably think I'm going through hell, but I don't care if you never come back. Cause who needs you when I got friends like that?
I feel like the story behind John Morgan might be a little more interesting than the song itself, where Morgan began a bluegrass family band before moving to Nashville and joining Jason Aldean's writer's room, competing in song contests, and then getting himself signed to Broken Bow and pushing a solo version of the song in April 2024, but that apparently didn't have much in the way of legs, so they reworked the song as a duet with Jason Aldean, and here we are. And on some level, it might make sense to have an actual friend on the song amidst the sharper organic twang. With a slightly better groove, this sounds better than the average colorless Jason Aldean song, although it could afford to be a little bit warmer. But when you dig into the reality that this is post-breakup and he's getting drunk with his friends, or said friends being music and booze, maybe a bit more down-tempo melancholy could have worked here, especially when it doesn't seem like there's much light at the end of the tunnel and it's not like Aldean has a lot of chemistry with them. The better version of the song is Record Year by Eric Church from a better decade ago, where you could argue Eric Church is much more of a mess, but you can tell there's a scrap of joy in the music he found along the way, where this feels a bit more embittered. But you know what? Morgan's got a good voice and he's at least more expressive than Aldean, not difficult. So this just rises to generically competent rather than mediocre. I'll take that at least. Number 80, Somethin' 'Bout a Woman by Thomas Rhett featuring Teddy Swims.
Bring it to your knees. Something about a woman. Something about a woman does something to me.
Not gonna lie, I'm a bit surprised it's not Jelly Roll on this instead of Teddy Swims on the remix, but maybe someone made the correct assessment that Jelly Roll is overexposed right now and Teddy Swims is easily as good, if not better, as a singer. So if this is gonna be some lightweight country soul, I'm sure it'd be mostly fine. Honestly, a bit better than I expected. The drums and bass are sharply organic, the peeling guitars are a great backdrop to this sort of smolder balanced against the acoustic guitar, and while Thomas Rhett trying to hop into his falsetto on the post-chorus is not impressive, Teddy Swims is more than equipped to just steal the entire song by the second verse, even alongside having pretty solid chemistry and interplay with Thomas Rhett on the bridge. If there is something that's going to hold this back, unsurprisingly, it's probably the content. Both these guys normally play themselves as in awe of a striking woman who pulls them along in her wake, and the writing is honestly too stock to venture outside that comfort zone, but still better than average in that lane. I think I'm gonna take it. Number 71, How Does It Feel to Be Forgotten by Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco.
I can't imagine it. How does it feel to be forgotten?
You know, if you wanted songs with competent production, you could have pushed the very obvious Billie Eilish wannabes where Phineas was actually co-producing, not this limp Lana Del Rey wannabe that has out-charted so many better actual Lana Del Rey songs. And as someone who's got a rather tempestuous relationship with Lana Del Rey's music, it says a lot. But yeah, this isn't any good. Selena Gomez's vocals smothered in sloppy, scratched up pitch correction that doesn't match any of the fragmented attempts at opulence around the rickety guitar, utterly unconvincing to sell this sort of self-satisfied vamping to take down an ex who thought there was more of a connection post-relationship than there was, but she's clearly forgotten them. So why exactly are you featuring them as the main subject matter in a song? But I think it's just the performance that sinks it. Selena Gomez is just not convincing as the personality that can carry this sort of song. You need a level of intensity, not this sound of this quivering, not over it all over the place. So again, not good. Next, number 70, This Town's Been Too Good to Us by Dylan Scott.
We leave it in a cloud of dust. This town's been too good to us.
I'm not sure what it is over the past 7+ years that's caused me to curdle on Dylan Scott so aggressively. It's not like he's been remotely interesting beyond making C-list mainstream country that's got a few too many odd lyrical swerves to be likable, but not enough to make it precisely memorable. Maybe it's because I know dozens of other acts that could be doing way more with the space he's taking up on the Hot 100, but I can say that about any number of acts and any number of genres. But the title of this gave me a really bad feeling, not helped by discovering that it was first released back in June 2023. And listening to it, it's obvious why it took nearly 2 years to get this high. The painfully chintzy and fizzy drum machine, complete with a dated snap beat that blends horribly with his overcompressed vocal lead, the bass swallowing the mix where the ghostly guitars have no muscle to properly explode, despite the crescendo implying that's constantly coming but never does. It sounds like dream country pressed through this hideous Nashville synthetic filter. And when you got Scott's pseudo-rap checklist of things, or he goes on at length how we have not appreciated that small town enough growing up. Okay, sure, I get some level of nostalgia, but normally that comes with an organic sound palette, not something that Kane Brown would have rejected 6 years ago. So yeah, I'm not sure why this is getting a sudden push, but it sure as hell does not need one. It blows. Next, number 65, Mona Lisa by J-Hope.
I ain't get me going, might just blow it. I like my girls pretty in the face. Art is the frame. Mona Lisa, yeah, I need you. I like my girls.
It looks like they're giving this J-Hope album rollout more legs than I expected, especially after that Miguel collab, and it looks like he's trying to double down on the mainstream adjacent R&B, although this time with Cashmere Cat to give him a bouncy, Neptunes-inspired, full of scratches, staccato pianos, and warping synths that sounds suspiciously like what Tommy Richmond was trying, except minus falsetto, and with J-Hope trying for Loverboy swagger that I don't think is sticking. Maybe it's the gang vocal sing-along at the end, maybe it's how the attitude is a shade too polished. Maybe it's how this is so obviously and clumsily chasing 2000s trends but shrink wrap for TikTok with the hook and single verse, where J-Hope sounds weirdly awkward with the rap verse. But the larger issue might just be the content. It's trying to hit the balance of describing this woman as hot like the Mona Lisa, where the allure was never tied to the beauty but the mystery behind the eyes, but also having her life together, which is attractive but has the feel of barely stringing the punchlines together, especially keeping it plural and wanting multiple women like this. I mean, it's more awkward than bad, but yeah, if his handlers expect this to work, they might be in for a rude awakening. All I'm saying. Number 59, Ojos Tristes by Selena Gomez, Benny Blanco, and the Marias.
Necesita amor, como el aire necesita verme, como el sol lo necesito yo.
You know, I do like that the Marias appear to have built a bit of a sleeper presence on the Hot 100 between this newly charting the highest from the album and No One Noticed, and it helps that the song's decent as a result. Granted, I think Selena Gomez might be the weakest part of this song. Her vocal mix feels weirdly slapdash against the gentle synth pulse compared to the more saturated pickup from Maria Zardoya, who even here sounds awkwardly filmy when the guitar comes in at the end, but who basically takes over the song from the first chorus onwards, where you see see the cycle of a breakup with a boy with sad eyes that leads to a lot of direct romantic longing. I wouldn't say it goes beyond some lightweight melodrama, but it's at least mostly effective in that lane, so yeah, you know what? I'll take it. Not bad. Number 57, Just Us by Jack Harlow and Doja Cat.
Bust nuts in his hand. Let's keep it on a hush hush in this bitch. I told her she's so pretty, and she just blushed in this bitch.
Anyone else thinks this kind of looks desperate? After 2024 and Lovin' On Me, I've had the feeling that the pop rap Jack Harlow pushed to the mainstream has had a rapidly diminishing shelf life, and teaming up with Doja Cat for a collab that already seems to be landing badly has me thinking her time in the spotlight might be winding down faster as well. Granted, Jack Harlow does not avail himself well from the opening hook against the pitch-down shuffling sample that really needed some variation than a single loop running. It's well balanced, but do a little bit more with it. Come on. Mostly because nobody wants to hear about Zach and Cody on the hook alongside She Husky Like Mush Mush when you're trying to come inside your girl. I'd make the Drake comparison for the umpteenth time, but if so, it's the version where even Drake's phoning in the dance track for the easy hit, and Jack Harlow doesn't even have that faint trace of swagger anymore. I'd say that Doja Cat saved this, but really, does she? Or she's trying to make an encounter with Jack Harlow sound enticing? And even then, I'm not sure that's fully the case, because by the end of the verse, she's outright dissing the fans who like this shit, which she herself calls bad music, but if you buy the stupid nonsense, why not mock you for it? Made all the more pronounced by the R&B references to Omarion and Music Soul Child, who at least made more sensual music than this. In other words, Jack Harlow sounds lifeless, and Doja Cat's taking the brown bag money and hates you for listening. Glad we're at least on the same page for acknowledging that this blows. Next, number 17, I'm a Little Crazy by Morgan Wallen.
But some become the devil when the moon's full. Yeah, the only thing keeping these tracks on the train. Knowing I'm a little crazy, but the world's insane.
Alright, ending things off with two Morgan Wallen songs. Fun times when I'm on vacation, right? And am I the only one who is noticing how cynical some of these song titles are of these tracks that are given Morgan Wallen's lingering reputation? I'm the problem. I'm a little crazy. Very clearly set up to show self-awareness, only for him to slightly tilt the script to push accountability in any other direction. I recognize the clickbait when I see it. But this song is odd as a whole. It's organic and pretty well produced, largely an acoustic ballad with only subtle touches of groove. But the switch is, if Morgan Wallen's a little crazy, the world's insane. Now, on the one hand, yeah, the world can feel like it's spiraling out of control. I get that. But Wallen's brand of crazy is this weird, conservative-leaning paranoia where he keeps a loaded gun by his bed and yells at his TV while he drinks lukewarm beer on antidepressants, where the kids are warned not to go by his house, but then one of those kids got abducted, so now he doesn't look so crazy, right? I mean, I didn't even have to check that Hardy co-wrote this, because of course he did. But when you recognize that on the hook he calls himself a red letter rebel, coaxing all of this because it's from God when the devils come out of the full moon, there's just this ugly edge that won't acknowledge that this sort of antisocial nonsense often perpetuates the roots of the problem in the first place. Where he's right, the news isn't changing no matter what he yells at it, but there's no recognition of what the problems actually are. And why am I reminded more than a little of Am I the Only One by Aaron Lewis than I should be? Maybe it's because they both go for this somber, self-serious acoustic side without any muscle, but Morgan Wallen is not middle-aged. He's younger than me. It sounds goddamn uncanny coming out of him. So yeah, I'm inclined to call this unpleasantly weird at best and outright bad at worst. And that takes us to, finally, number 4, Just In Case by Morgan Wallen.
Every time I try, I just hit the brakes. And there's always a couple trying to take your place, but I never fall in love, baby, just in case.
Okay, I heard the buzz suggesting that this was the good one that dropped from Morgan Wallen this weekend. Look, I don't know, it's better, but I sure as hell wouldn't call it that good. Part of it is the somber production with the ghostly pedal steel behind the brittle acoustic strums, which only barely blends with that lumbering drum machine. Just feels kind of jammed in neutral, which might be apropos for the song, but doesn't exactly give it a lot of stickiness for me. Even if Wallen's voice is produced a little bit more cleanly, he sounds better. But there is something to the content where Wallen keeps trying to move move on from this relationship, but a part of him has been reserved just in case for that opportunity comes back for him to get back with this ex, which, okay, once again, I get it. He can sell wistfulness and the plea for something to come back around. I understand. But there are two factors that kind of taint it for me. The first being the reference to the one-night stands right from the first verse. Believable? Yeah, as a coping mechanism, but even with the downbeat framing, the dishonesty of the whole endeavor shows the only feelings Wallen really cares about are his own, certainly not any new partners. And that's only accentuated by the second factor, which is this presumptuousness on the second verse, with how he just knows this ex hasn't forgotten him or moved on, right after the deflection of it being wishful thinking out of him. Now, if that line came ahead of those lines in the song, the wishful thinking was the punchline, maybe it would have worked better, felt more grounded, mature, but it's clearly set up to feed Wallen's hopes of reconnection. And as such, okay, it's one of the better singles he's dropped thus far for this album, but none of these have been remotely essential or near his best, and I'm not looking forward to another overstuffed album with 36 songs with more of this. All I'm saying. But yeah, that's our week. Ugh, what a mess. Worst is Easy, Just Us by Jack Harlow and Doja Cat. The obnoxiousness of how it hates the audience and is too incompetent otherwise, it just beats out the disaster of production that is This Town's Been Too Good to Us by Dylan Scott as a dishonorable mention. Best of the week? You know, I think it's actually Sunset Boulevard by Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco. Goofy and clunky, but the hook is just strong enough to save it. And I'll put it above Something About a Woman by Thomas Rhett and Teddy Swims. Next week, well, I will be at home, and I hope to God we're going to get better songs than this. Stay tuned. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.